Why is your gifted child referred to as a child of many ages? If after watching our first video, 20 signs that your child may be gifted, you felt that your child displays a few of those signs and you feel like your child may be gifted, this is the video for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we start, I'm Esther Kinuthia, psychologist at Parenting Insight. At Parenting Insight, we offer information to help you understand your child from a brain development perspective. And secondly, we answer your parenting questions to help you make informed parenting decisions. So let's get started on asynchronous development. As I mentioned, I love this topic because I feel like it's the one topic that makes gifted children make sense, okay? So before we go to what asynchronous development is, I think it's easier to explain what synchronous development is. Now, normally children develop in three main aspects: intellectually, emotionally, and physically. And they generally develop these three areas in sync with each other. So that's why it's possible to have a group of, like for example, a class of 4-year-olds who a teacher can teach together because they are mentally, emotionally, and physically almost at par, okay? And that is why it's possible for them to learn together, to have activities together, to play together, because they're almost at the same level on average. Again, like I said, with children, it's not cast on stone. There's always children who deviate either slower in development or faster in development. So this is just on average, okay? So then, if that is synchronous development, then asynchronous development is when a child develops these three areas but out of sync with each other. So the same child can develop mentally faster than their physical or emotional development, or whichever way you choose to tweak that. So let's give an example of a child. Let's call her Christabel. Okay, so Christabel is a 4-year-old who has the physical ability of a 4-year-old. So Christabel, when she runs, you can see there's a bit of development, psychomotor skills yet to stabilize. I mean, she runs like your typical 4-year-old. She has a speed of a typical 4-year-old. She is typically 4 as far as her physical activities and abilities are concerned. But Christabel, when you have a conversation with her, she sounds way older than a 4-year-old. So if you were to give Christabel an age pegged on her ability to hold a conversation, her way of reasoning, her way of analyzing, her way of critiquing, her way of questioning, you'd give her 7 years, right? So Christabel is intellectually 7 years old. But then Christabel has a lot of tantrums and emotional meltdowns. She has a hard time sharing, and sometimes she has a hard time taking turns or accepting that someone else can win. So she has the emotional regulation of, let's say, a 3-year-old. So this is one child who is different ages in different aspects of their development, okay? However, Christabel is chronologically for chronological age is just the current year minus the year you were born, which is basically what we feel as age pegged on date of birth, right? So Christabel is chronologically 4, she's physically 4, she's mentally 7, she's emotionally 3, okay? So you see different sides of Christabel depending on what you're doing with Christabel. If you're holding a conversation, she's intellectually superior to a 4-year-old. But then Christabel, she's much younger emotionally than her actual age, okay? But then physically, she's at par with her peers, all right? So that's an example of asynchronous development, when different facets of a child's development develop at different paces, so they're not in sync, all right? So then if Christabel is in a class, then intellectually she's bored because she's not stimulated. She's operating higher than other 4-year-olds in that class. But yet when they go to the field, she fits in because she's 4. So she's in her league in terms of development. She's at home when it comes to physical activities. If you put her with 7-year-olds, like her mental age, then they're way more developed than her. So she can't keep up with sports activities, for example, with 7-year-olds. So asynchronous developed children mean that you have to handle them differently because you have to adjust to the various ages that they are in their different aspects of development, right? Emotionally, she can still fit in with the 4-year-olds because it's just a difference of 1 year. It's just that she may have a little bit more tantrums than her classmates or a few more meltdowns than other children, but that's something that, you know, she still fits in with a group of 4-year-olds, okay? So because of the fact that most children develop generally in a synchronized manner, that's what makes it possible, for example, for a kindergarten teacher to have 10 children, aged 10 4-year-olds in a class, and the teacher can teach these children together. Because generally, most children and most of us, even in adulthood, we fall in the average. That is why gifted children are out of norm, and children with slow development or disabilities are on the other end of the spectrum, still out of the norm. So in most cases, most children are in the middle. So gifted children are out of norm because they're on the minority and they don't fall in the spectrum of majority, okay? So if you walked into a class of 4-year-olds, even if you were not a teacher or a parent or a psychologist or just someone who understood child development, you'd be a clown to walk in the same class of 4-year-olds and ask them to mentally calculate 1,000 divided by 4. The reason why normally most people, if not all, people would not ask that of 4-year-olds is because we generally expect that they're not yet able to make such calculations offhand. So they have to use manipulative. So dividing 1,000 by 4 is something that you expect way ahead in terms of age and advancement. If you were Christabel's parents, how would you handle Christabel? This is just a random, suggestions, right? Have intellectual conversations with her, because remember, she's intellectually 3 years ahead of her chronological age. So she will enjoy having intellectual conversations where you ask a lot of questions. Let her listen to her perspective on analyzing issues, answer her why questions. She's probably going to have a lot of why things are the way they are and why they're not a certain way and what ifs. Be patient and willing to answer that, because she's intellectually stimulated by that, by intellectual conversations. As far as emotional regulation is concerned, you need to put a little bit of effort in terms of showing her different ways of expressing herself and regulating her emotions. So for example, if she's having a tantrum because she can't have something, then you can tell her to use words and let her learn to attach words to feelings, and let her start understanding the concept of appropriateness in terms of behavior, okay? And this I'm saying where there's no special needs or something that you understand there's a medical condition or something like that. So I'm not saying in general, because children have tantrums for different reasons. So I'm not ignorant to that fact. So I'm saying just if it's just a matter of learning a skill that she needs to improve on, then you can go ahead and do that. And then give her work that is intellectually stimulating, maybe work that is more advanced than that other 4-year-olds are doing. You can give her work that maybe even a 6-7-year-old can do. She may not be able to do everything, because even intellectual giftedness it varies. So she may be intellectually good in math and number work, but very poor with reading and comprehension. So again, you have to be very, very keen to notice the specifics that a child is gifted in, because most of the time it's not general in giftedness, it's specific. When you expect too much, then you end up mishandling a child, and that can cause damage. And then we'll also talk about the twice exceptional. This is our unique group. Twice exceptional are children who have a gift, they are gifted, but they also have a disability, hence the description of twice exceptional. I'll give an example of maybe a 4-year-old who's been diagnosed to fall in the autism spectrum. So this 4-year-old is gifted in, say, something like they can code a computer application at the ability of a 13-year-old, or can build Lego, can build amazing stuff on Lego. Like, you can actually watch that child work and you see whatever their creation is out of this world, right? So let's give an example of this 4-year-old who can code a computer application that usually you'd give it to a 13-year-old, okay? The same child has a speech development of a 1-year-old. So on one side, they are highly, highly gifted. On the other side, they have a disability, because if you're 4 and your speech ability is at 1, then you're 3 years behind your normal development. hence the description of twice exceptional. Now, the whole concept of giftedness, or just basically for any human being to succeed, by default, we all succeed in that which we are good at. Pick that thing that your child does with ease and they enjoy doing. First of all, anything your child enjoys doing is highly likely the same thing that they do with ease. So is highly likely the thing that they're gifted in, okay? So find out, now start observing and see what your child enjoys to do and start creating a conducive environment for more of that, okay? So here's what I want you to remember. Number one is that we all have strengths and weaknesses. There is not one single human being who is strong in everything and who can do everything very well. Number two is that we cannot turn a weakness into a strength. We can only try to strengthen a weakness, okay? But so for example, the boy that we have described as twice exceptional, he's highly gifted as far as maybe like computer IT stuff. Remember, he can code at the capacity of a 13-year-old. But so that's his gift, that's his strength. It's not something he sat down and strategized on how to do. It's just something he found himself doing with ease, way above what most 4-year-olds can do. But the same boy has a speech problem, okay? So you can take that child to a speech therapist and they can improve on their speech, but that's probably not going to be their strongest point. And so just to understand that not only in the twice exceptional, but generally with human beings, you can strengthen a weakness, but if something is your weakness, it's highly likely not ever going to become your core strength. Your core strengths are the things that naturally you find yourself doing with ease and you enjoy doing and you love doing, okay? And you find that you do them with ease and yet other people think they're complicated. Now you know that it's something that is a strength because it's not easy for everybody. It doesn't cut across the board. Number three, like I said, all human beings gravitate to doing that which they enjoy, because that which they're gifted in because they enjoy. So the things you gravitate towards, the things you enjoy to do. If you're an artist and you enjoy doing artwork, when you think about it, you're probably highly gifted in creativity. So it's not something you struggle to do. And lastly, and this one I want it to be like our key takeout as far as parenting is concerned. There's a difference between better at and better than. So what we want to focus on when we're parenting is better at, as opposed to focusing on better than. So let me start on what we should not focus on. We should not focus on better than, because better than is when you're comparing two unique individuals to each other and then you're comparing their different skills, ability, and giftedness and expecting one person to be a replica of another, which is, first, it's insulting to any human being. I mean, nobody thrives by being compared to someone else, because either you fall short, which means it affects your self-esteem, or you fall way high above, which can create a sense of arrogance or a sense of mediocrity because, hey, after all, you're better than ABCD. So better than is never really, even from a psychological perspective, has never been constructive in any way. I can't think of a point at which comparing individuals, especially children where learning is concerned, is important, unless you're trying to come up with a system like grading, okay? But other than that, in terms of individual growth and trying to nurture an individual person, you are always safer and more productive going with better at. So better at is the way to go. Better at means you're comparing an individual child's different skills across the board and seeing where their strengths are, where their averages are, and where their weaknesses are. So you're trying to look, because this is also one of the ways that you'll be able to pick what the giftings of a child are, what they're gifted at, is when you're comparing better at. So they're better at art than sciences, and they're average in maybe, let's say, literacy. And so because you're comparing, number one, you're able to know what they're really good at and support that, but at the same time, you're able to know what you can strengthen, what weakness you can strengthen. But you're also able to know that which the child, even if you support them, they will never really be good at. That doesn't mean that you don't support, it just means that you have realistic expectations that that child may never be good at sciences because they're just an arts person and they see images in their mind and they see creations of works of art, and they are not going to be the greatest physicists that ever existed. Okay, so that's the beauty of knowing the better art as far as parenting is concerned. So even as I share these tips, as a parent, do not ever doubt your power to influence your child positively, because you're the one person who is highly connected to that child. So who better a person to help a child thrive than the one person who they're connected to the most and the one person who loves and cares for them the most. I know you may not have all the scientific facts together, but trust your instinct. If your gut tells you that your child operates a certain way, trust your instinct. Then go out of your way and do your research, consult professionals if you need to. You can always send your questions to us if you want us to explore a topic deeper. But be bold about making decisions that positively influence your child. Be bold about supporting your child. Be bold about embracing the uniqueness of your child, whether they are having a disability, whether they are gifted, whether they are twice exceptional, whether they are within the norm. It doesn't matter. Be bold about parenting your child as a whole person.